the Board of Directors for the Midwest Clinic. First of all, thank you for joining us. I'm sorry we're not here in person, but that's going to happen in the future. And mark your calendars from December 15th to the 18th, 2021, when we'll be in Chicago for the celebration of the 75th annual Midwest Clinic. As you all know, each year we do a conversation with, and we bring in one of the heroes in the profession. And this year is dynamite. We have the Grammy Award-winning composer, Omar Thomas. And I could spend forever telling you about all his achievements and his accolades, but I don't want to waste 1 minute of our time with him. So thanks you again for joining us virtually. And now would you please welcome my friend, Omar Thomas. What is going on in Austin, Omar?
A lot of sunshine, heat, low humidity. It's a good hang.
It's a great hang. So let's get right at it. Give us a bird's eye view of how you got to where you are now. And let's go back as far as high school if you can.
Sure. I went to high school in Newark, Delaware, at Newark High School, and had immersed myself in all things fine arts. I was in the band room all the time. Joined choir, was in orchestra, was in jazz ensemble, was drum major in the marching band, and knew then that I wanted to pay it forward. And so I got a degree in music education from James Madison University, and I minored in jazz studies. And it's while I was there that I was, I don't want to say coerced, that's not the right word, but I was strongly encouraged to write a piece for big band, which I was nervous about because the music that I was being exposed to was really kind of blowing my mind at the time. And so, I felt very insecure about that, but I wrote a piece and it was successful, and I wrote another piece and it did well. And so I decided to go to grad school for jazz composition, and I did so at NEC up in Boston. Yeah, and so that was a great hang. I loved it, and while I was there, my graduate recital band ended up being my big band, the Omar Thomas Large Ensemble, because it was just such an awesome, well-received recital that it would be a shame to do all that preparation for one concert and then dissipate and never make music again. So we continued, and while I was finishing my master's degree, that's when I got hired to faculty at Berklee College of Music. So I graduated from grad school in May of 2008, and I was in new faculty orientation in August 2008, next to one of my professors who I just had, who was returning to the faculty of Berklee. So we went from being, professor-student relationship to kind of colleague in the matter of 3 months, which was really weird for me. And, I was there at Berklee for 10 years. I was full-time my last few years. Before that, while I was part-time, I was also, for 4 years, a teaching fellow for the Jazz Harmony course at Harvard. And became full-time at Berklee, became an associate professor, and then hopped on over to Peabody Conservatory faculty in music theory for 2 years, and did a ton of residencies and got to meet and connect with high school and college students and band directors and communities across the country. And now here I am in Austin at UT.
Wow. And that happened in how many years, all that goodness?
This is my 13th year of teaching. So it was pretty fast, accelerated track, it feels like.
So a quick question, because I know that many of the people that are watching this, they're music educators. When you went to college, what was the goal at that time? I mean, were you thinking about, I'm going to be a composer, or what did you want to do?
No, the goal was to be a band director. And I was dead set on that until I student taught. And I feel like let me flesh that out.
Yeah.
First of all, for the record, I had phenomenal placements. I had amazing students, wonderful cooperating teachers. I couldn't have asked for a better situation. But just the way my energy is set up, I realized that was unsustainable for me over the course of 10, 20, 30 years. And so I just had a deeper respect for our colleagues in the field who are out there doing this forever, and I realized that that was not going to be my journey. I could do it at the collegiate level, but the energy that it took for especially middle school,
Mm,
I needed to reevaluate my life. I became the kind of person who crosses days off the calendar, and I was like, well, this is just student teaching. I don't think I want to spend the next 30 years of my life crossing my days off the calendar.
I understand.
So that's when I kind of pivoted.
Well, clearly, I think most of us are here because of a music educator along the way. So you must have had some people who were your mentors that pushed you in this direction. Tell us a little bit about those.
My answer is all of them. I really lucked out. From elementary school, I'm so grateful to Mr. Fry who called my mom and told her that I wasn't practicing enough because that's what got me practicing. In middle school, it was Mr. Chepakaitis who was also my trombone teacher, and I'll always hold dear our after school sessions with us playing duets from the real book, where I'd play the melody and he'd play the roots of the chords and we'd switch. I learned so much about harmony and how it functions in those moments. To my high school band director, Mr. Lloyd Ross and Mr. Jonathan Whitman, who dealt with me being always in the room and trusted me in those moments when they were gone to kind of run the rehearsals and just, allowed me to conduct a piece at the concert, the wind ensemble, and then of course in college I had an incredible trombone professor, Dr. Andy Langford, incredible jazz mentors, Chuck Dotis and Dave Pope. Um, and I've just been fortunate all the way through. In grad school, lucked out getting to study with Ken Chaphorst and Frank Carlberg. I had a magical lesson experience with Maria Schneider that changed my life, and so yeah, I stand on the shoulders of all of these wonderful, dedicated musicians.
Yes. And the people that are watching this, you know what? They're the people we all stand on their shoulders. Isn't it interesting that we always address them as Mr. or Doctor or Mrs.?
Hell yeah, you feel really weird on that first name thing. It doesn't matter.
I
Doesn't
know.
matter at all. Yeah.
That's great.
I
You
also have to shout out, if I can,
know,
her last name is not Mrs. Pyle anymore, but she'll always be Mrs. Pyle to me. And she was the choral teacher in high school, and I just had a blast. I don't know what took me so long to join choir, but when I did, man, it was awesome. So again, all of my teachers were just so fabulous.
well, they're certainly smiling right now. I can assure you that. When we talked the other day, Omar, you shared a great story about your friendship with John Mackey and his wife and
Hmm.
living close together and how this opened up a new landscape for you. Would you just
Sure.
put that one out there for us?
Absolutely. So when I was living in Boston, well, more specifically north of Boston in Cambridge, Somerville area, and John and Abby moved out to that part of the country, and we actually lived walking distance from each other. So we got to know each other very well, spent a lot of time together, and I would invite them to my big band concerts, and they would come. So they got to actually know me in that context. And then one day in 2015, I got a call from Dr. Gary Schaller at Western Kentucky, asking me to compose a piece for their CBDNA regional performance, which was in Charleston, South Carolina that year, and that was just a couple of months after the horrible shooting that happened at Mother Emanuel Church. And he told me that he actually got my name from John because he had approached John for that commission first, and John just didn't feel like it would be appropriate for him to be the one to write that piece. And they'd heard my music, John and Abby, and it was Abby who said, who would be the perfect person for that. And he gave him my name, and he was like, absolutely. And John passed my name on to Dr. Schaller. And, at first I honestly did not want to do it, but I'm so grateful that my dad told me to suck it up and that I did. And I guess the rest is kind of history now.
Well, two things are really important about that. First of all, how important relationships are.
Sure.
Because John, passed it to you and
Absolutely.
opened up a new world for you,
That's right.
right? And if that hadn't happened, we probably wouldn't be talking right now.
That's right.
And just the fact that you're willing to take that jump, because I can
Yeah.
imagine that was a little scary is not the right word, but oh my gosh, what if, yeah?
Oh, scary. Scary is definitely the right word. I was terrified for a number of reasons because I hadn't really done a significant wind ensemble work by that point, even though I've been playing in wind ensembles, for so long in my life. And also the subject matter and knowing that Dr. Shallert wanted to invite members of Mother Emanuel Church to the performance so they would be there for the world premiere, it was just a lot, all at once. But the interesting thing about that is once I agreed to do it, it was knowing that members of the church would be in attendance that made the piece so relatively easy for me to write, because I understood that I needed to write a piece of music that spoke directly to them and their experiences in the church and with one another. So that informed all of my melodic and harmonic decisions. I knew I was going to use the Black National Anthem, Lift Every Voice and Sing, as the cornerstone. And by and large, that piece became very easy to write.
Mm. Yeah, connected your heart and soul. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. You have had the great opportunity to work with some of the most incredible people in the music profession. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. Well, you're probably referring to on my bio. I've got a list of names, and it's awesome to read. You know, the Shaka Khan is on there, Dionne Warwick, Kenny Lattimore, Marsha Ambrosius. So all of that was actually a gig at the Howard Theater in D.C., where it was honoring Valerie Simpson of Ashford Simpson, Dionne Warwick, Shaka Khan, and I always forget who the fourth woman, Etta James. And this was produced by Terry Lynn Carrington. And she asked me, she put together an all woman horn section. And so they needed to create medleys of all of these artists' music. And so she asked me if I could just like whip out some transcription arrangements. And so I did. And so I sat in, I remember working on this in like Starbucks in Somerville, and I would just like have my headphones on and she would give me the recordings and I would listen to them and I would just, do the thing, transcribe them. And then we all went down for the gig, and everybody came in. Stephanie Mills was there. Yolanda Adams was there. It was the craziest thing. And I'm just kind of standing on the side, just, in the wings when Shaka Khan comes on the stage, and I'm just trying to not freak out. But that was an amazing experience. Yeah, I'll never forget that. Also, kind of a interesting, kind of weird intersection is that year was the year of the Boston Marathon bombing.
Oh, yeah.
And I used to go to that every year. And I used to watch, and I was really bummed that year that this event had coincided with that, because I was like, oh, I'm gonna miss it. I'm usually, hanging out right there by the finish line. And it was while we were there that we found out that there was this awful bombing. So I would have been there in the midst of all of that had it not been for that gig.
Wow. What was the connection to get that gig for you? What was the
So both Terry Lynn and I were on faculty at Berkeley, and I'd been really performing with my big band at that time, and just trying to get us out there and releasing albums, and we just connected. We're very kindred spirits, and she is just such a loving, giving person. She's a nurturer and she's an educator, and she's also one of those people who really kind of enjoys paying it forward, and pulling people up with her. And so we had connected, and I had done several arranging things for her. So for a while, I was like the person that she called to arrange things for her anytime she had, a gig. And so I really got some invaluable experience. And that's how I ended up doing those arrangements on the Diane Reeves album that ended up winning the Grammy.
Wow. That's a catapult. That's, and again, we're back to people. You knew the right people and they helped you and so forth. Everybody, you're exciting in the profession because you are exciting, and that reflects, and it reflects in your music too. And your music has such a texture to it that's different. It's different colors than we're used to hearing. It's a different stacking and layering. Can you talk about that a little bit? How you came up
Absolutely.
with the elixir?
I didn't study classical composition. I study. I have a degree in jazz composition. I'm a jazz arranger. I'm a jazz composer.
Mm-hmm.
And so I come to this field with that language kind of in my back pocket. And so this is me trying to not think of wind ensemble as a genre, but to think of it as an instrument, and just using that instrument to amplify my voice, and just trying to show up as authentically as possible in that way. So Yeah, I guess it sounds different because that's just what I do, and that's who I am, and that's what I can do. And so I work with every new piece to just stand really firm in that.
Well, your your ears are drawn to it because it's a different flavor than most of us are used to hearing, or we kind of expect something and it's like, whoa, that went another direction. And again, it's like a new, I don't know, flavor of ice cream or something, and it is so exciting. So you're going to keep writing for the band genre, right?
I will. Yeah. I mean, gosh, you guys have been so receptive and it's so supportive, and it's been amazing. And also, I am no stranger to the band world. I started in band in fourth grade and played through college. So this really feels like a homecoming. I'm just honored that I can contribute to the field that's given so much to me for so long and to so many other people.
I think most of us are, we've recognized you now as a band composer. You are one of that tier of people. Everybody go, I want to play his music. Let's play his music, or let's commission something from him. My gosh, this guy's a genius. But the whole jazz side of you that a lot of people don't know about.
That's
Can you
right.
tell us a little bit about that part of Omar?
That's right. That's me. It's all me. But you can hear in my wind ensemble music that that's coming from a different place. And I was all geared up to finally record our third album with my big band, and COVID kind of, as it has done with so many things, has forced us to reschedule. But I'm so excited to get that music out because even though some of it has been written over a decade ago, I think that for everybody who knows me only in the wind ensemble context, once they hear that, I feel like things will make a lot of sense, and who I am as a composer will be fleshed out in a way. So I'm really excited to introduce everybody to that side of what I do. And I'm also excited about just synthesizing everything in terms of my writing, and figuring out how I can bring that sound as authentically to this ensemble or that ensemble as possible. So this is going to be an ongoing, lifelong journey for me. And yeah, I try to explore that in a different way with every piece.
So we can expect some new and different sounds that are coming from this uncharted area that you're.
That's what I'm hoping.
Yeah,
That's what I'm hoping for. Yeah.
I think that's what we're all hoping for because it's pretty. Nah, I was going to say unusual. It's different when the jazz community, right, and the band wind ensemble community come together. But
Hmm.
this has to happen, yeah. And
Sure.
you're grabbing both sides.
Trying, and just in figuring out what is easily translatable and what takes some interpretation. So walking that line, right now it's a tightrope, but I hope to widen it to a beam and then eventually to a sidewalk, and just try to merge them as seamlessly as possible in ways that make sense.
I think that's great because I think both of those communities can gain by sharing what the other community knows, right? They can make you better
Absolutely.
musicians. You can embrace all that.
Absolutely. I feel like I took a big step in that direction with this flex piece that I wrote, Sharp Nine, which
Yeah.
finally gives all wind instruments, and I'm hoping to expand that soon, but just give everybody the opportunity to begin to improvise on the blues and to explore blues harmonies and blues form. Like that was very intentional. It's at a grade 2.5 level because I really wanted to be kind of the start of building that bridge and just having people explore, in this language and in this medium, and to start to find a voice in that.
That's a new pathway up
Yeah,
to the summit of that particular mountain, which
that's
again,
right.
everybody's going to gain. Everybody's going to gain when that happens. So,
I hope so.
congratulations for that. There's certainly a lot of people. We have a lot of college students that attend the Midwest Clinic,
Yeah.
and I know a lot of them are aspiring composers. Where you were headed to be a band director, they may be a composition major or something like that, and they
Right.
look at somebody like you, Omar, and go, "Well, that's what I want to do." What advice, thoughts, directions can you share with those people that'll really give them some road signs?
Sure. I'm going to tell them to listen to their musical voice and to trust their musical voice, and to stop comparing
Mm,
themselves to other composers, and to realize that everybody has a unique voice and a unique fingerprint. And so our job as composers is to figure out what ours is and to do that to the fullest. We, of course, we're inspired by people, and we kind of plant our seed in the soil of the composers who speak to us and whom we want to emulate. But out of that grows, a sapling, which turns into a plant, which turns into a tree that is uniquely our own voice. So strive to just listen to what it is that you like and what it is that you gravitate towards, and just be true to that. Be true to yourself.
And what advice would you give them about getting people to play their music? Anybody, right?
Yeah, even if your music is great, ultimately it's about humanity and connection and relationships. Nobody wants to bring you to their school to introduce you to their students if you don't have something here to really share with the community. So that's what my residencies have been about. It's been my way of advocacy and just connection and giving back. And so it really doesn't matter how spectacular your music is. It's the person who's being invited to the institution. So make sure that you are a full and complete and empathetic and receptive person.
I'll bet you have a great time when you do those, don't you?
Oh, they're a lot of fun. I mean, I love them. When the world was open in the old world, I felt like I was on a plane every 7 to 10 days. And yes, I was exhausted, but luckily for me, there's Starbucks in every airport. I just pound down the coffee and just keep it moving. It was so fulfilling and so rewarding. And I look forward to getting back to that in the new world, whatever that looks like.
Amen. And I'm absolutely certain the people that you were spending time with had a great time as well.
I hope so. I hope so. I
Mhm.
got to meet just lovely, wonderful, talented people in the field.
Oh, we reflect who's in front of us, right?
That's
And
right.
that being the case. Um, I'm going to take just a little different twist on this because
Hmm.
somebody's going to, I mean, if I said, were there any questions? I can tell you this would be one of the questions.
Sure.
When you have a commission, yeah, and you sit down, there's a blank piece of paper. What needs to happen before you start? What goes through your process, your mind, the preparation?
Hmm. Well, first of all, I need to lean into and embrace the panic and the fear and realize that that's part of the creative process.
Ah,
So getting over that first hurdle is always the hardest part. And just knowing that you're about to tumble into a process that's pretty painful and that will challenge your perceptions of yourself and of your talent and what it is that you can do, and it's very uncomfortable. But that's the part of it, and that makes the final bar line that much more rewarding, that much more sweet. So the first thing that I do is face that.
uh-huh.
And that's actually an ongoing thing. That's not even when I'm staring down a commission. That's kind of like an everyday thing. Um, but then after that, it's really about, for me, it's about creating a world, creating a vibe, and seeing what it is that I want to say. Whether there is a message or there isn't a message. I tend to gravitate towards programmatic music because it helps me kind of create the form and the story of the piece. And I figure out what that is, and I look at my canvas and I say, what is the emotional thing that's happening here? And every decision that I make is in service to that. And so I do a lot of kind of charting out, and most of the writing doesn't even really happen at the piano because I am not a very good piano player. So once you play things into existence, it's hard to unhear them.
Mm,
But the form and the ideas of the piece come together in moments where I'm just living life, when I'm walking or just allowing my mind to wander and to go there. And then you know the last step is to go to the piano and to try to hammer out the ideas that have been swirling around in my head. And then it's a back and forth, you go back between the piano and going forth and figuring out what it is that you're trying to say, and then chiseling away at it some more. So it's a lot.
well, I think the important thing, many of the important things you just shared, Omar, was that there is trepidation. There is, oh my gosh, can I do this? But through that,
Always.
there's got to become tremendous self growth. Yeah.
Well, there are these moments that are called, forget who coined this term, but it's a moment of flow. And
Yeah.
it happens for artists, it happens for athletes, you know, and it's just when you are in this state where everything is aligning and ideas are flowing and you're just at peak performance. And they don't last that long, but when they happen, the high of them is enough to carry you through to find it again. So that in those moments, I mean, those would be the peaks to the valley of, you know, self-doubt and, you know, getting to that point where you're like, I'm stuck. I can't believe somebody's paying me to do this and I can't do this. I should have gotten an MBA. This is awful, you know? And then you hit those states of flow when you're just like, yeah, this is, you know, my name is Omar and I'm doing this great thing. So it's really it's a process, but you do come out learning a lot at the end about yourself and about your process.
You love teaching?
I love teaching. I love teaching. I'm just as much an educator as I am a composer.
And we can count on a lot of music in the future from you, yes?
I certainly hope so.
You're
I
young,
would
you have
like
a
that.
lot of tread left, my friend. This is
Yeah,
great. I have one more favor to ask of you, okay?
sure.
Not that the debt board isn't already heavily in your favor on all of this. Based on the fact we did this virtually, would you consider doing it in person once we get back to normal, and we'll drag you to
I would
Chicago and
be
sit down?
absolutely honored. You let me know.
I will.
Let's hang out.
Hey, you have a friend for life, let me assure you. And thank you. There's so much insight you gave us. And not just about music, but about life in itself and why we do what we do and how important your teachers were in this process, because those are the people watching. So I know all your teachers are going, oh my gosh, my student, my drum major. That's great. Thank you so much for doing this. Thanks to all of you for being with us and enjoying this tremendous bit of wisdom and knowledge that was shared. And we're going to make sure that Omar gets to Chicago where we can do this in a room together and we can all see each other face to face. Thank you, my friend. We
Thank you
will see
so
you
much.
next time. All
All
right.
right.
And thanks to all our friends from Midwest Clinic. Take care.